Hey, what's going on? Welcome. Welcome to 9 to Noon. Wild at Colorado has some A topic to it, and 9 to Noon tags that with double shot power. Double shot power coming up later in the radio show. Gold medal winning assistant coach and Minnesota Wild head coach Heinze. John Hines joins at 10:05 from the Mile High City, Davy. Kirill, where have you been? The Avs are about to find out tonight on KFAN. But we start with some NFL Combine cleanup. Houston Texans sideline analyst John Harris is an elite NFL draft mind. And recently I sat down with him in Indianapolis and began talking about his cool website, footballtakeover.com.
It's a drafting college football website. It's kind of the other half of my brain. Left half NFL, Texans, other half draft and college football. In fact, I grew up in this business as a college football guy. I worked for College Football News. I was kind of a college football expert there in Houston. And it really was the void of when the Oilers left. There was kind of this void of football before the Texans showed up. And so college football became, it's a big deal, but it really on radio wasn't. And I kind of got into that void, and that really is kind of what built kind of my name in Houston, and then I moved back there and became a host and eventually with the Texans on the sideline. So it's kind of both things, but if you want draft coverage, I cover it from all different angles. Went to Senior Bowl, got a bunch of stuff up there. In fact, I got a recent 3-round mock, which I know you had a chance to look at, which had, as I look back at it, I thought, man, that's a pretty good draft for the Vikings. I know that's one thing. It's been a talking point about the Vikings having better drafts going forward, and I think this is an opportunity for them to kind of fill that void and, find where they want to go with their GM going forward, which is an interesting process for them. And I feel like there's a really good candidate for that job sitting in my building. I don't want to lose him, but he is really, really good with the draft and really helps out Nick Caserio, James Lipford. But I don't want to lose him. But if you guys are looking to improve the draft process and production, James Lipford from out of Houston would be a good look.
All right, let's land the plane on the website. All right, footballtakeover.com with John Harris. Again, the X place to find him at J Harris Football. And once again, he's an analyst for Houston Texans Radio. I've known him for several years. There is a small subscription fee with footballtakeover.com. And the only time I've looked at it, now I'm going to subscribe to it this year. But like I looked at it 2 years ago when I was with you and you were talking about Drake May. Very comprehensive website if you're into the draft. But from a subscription standpoint, what do people get at footballtakeover.com?
Well, I try and analyze it from all different angles. I was a coach growing up when I was younger. A lot of people thought I should have stayed in coaching. A lot of people thought I should have stayed in scouting or gone into scouting. So hopefully people look at it, you're getting a little bit more of an advanced look than just guys that are looking at YouTube highlights. No offense to people that want to do it that way, that's fine. But I'm one of those guys that, when I dive into a player, I've watched hours of that player. It might be 2 games. I'm watching everything possible. I watch it like a former coach. Try to be a scout as much as I possibly can for it. The guys in the building are always kind of careful what they tell me because they know that I have a different level of understanding for it. So I'm always helpful for preseason games for the Texans. I do them up on TV because I know everybody that's playing the game. When we played you guys the first game, there were guys out on the field, that first game that you're like, wait, who's that guy? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I saw him at the Senior Bowl. He did these things. And so I just provide that background, and hopefully I'm a little bit more thorough in my analysis, and people have grown to trust me, especially in Houston. I wrote for the Washington Post for a few years on the draft, so I've dabbled in a lot of different areas, but I love having my own site. My wife helps me with it tremendously. My son is the IT part of it, so it's a very in-house sort of thing. I want to grow it and do more with it, but obviously my connection to the Texans, and that can be tricky a little time at some point because I've got to be careful about some of the guys I like, and then I hear in the building that they like them. I'm like, okay, I got there's a running back right now out there that I'm really a big fan of, but I know they're a big fan of it, so I got to be careful about how I kind of pitch that particular player. So, but footballtakeover.com, Paul, I really appreciate it. I think people, it's all ball, there's no fluff. And that pretty much is what I am when it comes to football. I could talk football all day.
All right. Now I'm going to see if I can identify that running back you're talking about and you think the Texans like, because let's make the Minnesota Vikings better. Okay. They have picks 18. Then second, they have a pick in the second round, third round, fifth round, sixth round, 3 7s, and they have compensatory picks coming for Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. And those could be pretty good picks. I'm going to begin with the running back. This is a Minnesotan who I actually had on the radio show yesterday, and I've known him 5 years. He led the Big Ten in rushing. Emmett Johnson from Nebraska. Is that your guy? And if not, what do you think?
Okay, so let me back up to last year. When we sat down and did this last year, you played a game with me and you said, look, if the Vikings drafted this player, would you be disappointed? Because we were, I think, the pick right after you guys last year. And to every guy you asked, Gray Zabel, yes. And there were a few others. And then one you said was Donovan Jackson. I said, that one would hurt the worst because he's a Houstonian. Wow. And we need him. And then you guys drafted him right in front of me. And I remember on our draft show, I told that story. In my mock draft, I actually have the Texans drafting Emmett Johnson. He's the type of player that we could absolutely, without a doubt, need.
Wait, so I nailed the guy.
You nailed the guy.
Yes.
There's another one. But you got one of them for sure. He's one of mine. But I had the Texans drafting him in the third round. Texans have got to have somebody to go with Woody Marks. Woody is a really solid back. He does a lot. But they really reduced his impact in the passing game because they had to use him so much in the running game. They need a complementary back. And I think Emmett's got home run hitting speed. But what I was more impressed with, Paul, was his ability to run between the tackles. His patience in duo, in gap and power scheme stuff, I thought was really, really impressive to me. That stood out to me like that would really fit for us. I think it would fit for you guys, maybe not the first round. But I think as this process, the combine process continues, I think that's a name we're going to hear more and more of. Like, did you see his testing? Oh, my goodness. And then people will go back and watch and go, holy smokes, that guy is going to end up being in the second round. I don't think the Texans, when it's all said and done, are going to end up having a shot at him in the third round. I think he is that good.
John Harris, footballtakeover.com, and also sideline analyst for Houston Texans Radio at J Harris Football to learn more about him and the product on X. Now, a guy that I do think is in play for the Minnesota Vikings at 18, and I just learned of him. How about this? How about how the strange nature of the world can work? So I'm flying from Minneapolis to Indianapolis, and right next to me is a guy wearing Oregon Ducks garb. He was connecting from Portland. It was their kicker, Atticus Sappington. Yeah. So Atticus and I chatted the entire flight, and he told me about Dylan Tieneman. Dylan Tieneman, a safety from Oregon, said a lot of good things about him. I think the Vikings could be in the defensive back business at 18. Dylan Tieneman, what do you think?
I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. We must be on the same wavelength because in my 3-round mock draft, for the Minnesota Vikings that pick, what are they, 49 in the second round, I think it is? Yeah, Dylan Tieneman.
In the second round, not the first.
Well, that's the thing. I did it, and I knew full well. And that's the thing, when you start doing a mock draft and you start trying to put needs with teams, and all of a sudden you look up and you go, holy crap, I haven't put Tieneman anywhere. And then I look up and I think, okay, how much longer does Harrison Smith have? Yeah. And, of course, there's going to be a direct comparison to Harrison Smith, and you'll know why when you see Dylan Tieneman.
Really?
But I think Dylan, he spent 2 years at Purdue before he went to 1 year at Oregon. I felt like at Purdue, he was more of a middle field safety, rangy, fast. I think this process right now is going to take him from wherever anybody has him to definitely in a top 32. I don't think there's any way. Like, the Texans have a great secondary. I would love Tieneman at 38. I don't think there's any chance he's getting to us. I think he is going to test extremely well. He's a lot like Harrison. Now, I think Harrison, over the years, the instinct started showing up. He took a lot of calculated risks. I think Tieneman's athletic ability gets him to where he needs to go. He made a tremendous play in a Penn State game at the end of the game with interception where he was rolling up on a coverage based on motion, then made a great catch, and it was like, that guy. 31 in green. He ends up in Minnesota. I think Brian Flores, and again, depends on what happens with Harrison, but even if you have Harrison, I think you add a player of his caliber, his smarts, spent 2 years in the Big Ten, and that's where he really popped for me. I remember seeing him as a freshman. As a true freshman, I thought, a couple years from now, I'm going to write that dude up, and I'm going to love watching him. He would be, that's a perfect. I'm glad you ran into Atticus. He is dead on. I think it's a great fit for you guys.
All right, Atticus Sappington. Do you think he'll kick for an NFL team next year?
Yeah, I think he will. It's interesting when it comes to kickers. We were talking about this. We ran into a guy the other night, and he has a relative that has a punter, I believe it is, a punter that's kind of going through this process. And it's funny. He says, hey, do you... I will say on footballtakeover.com, you will never see a punter or kicker written up. I just don't. I've never had a lot of full trust in kickers. I think maybe it goes back to my college years when my buddy Bobby Warden would be over there doing juggling techniques when we were going through 2 days practices. But Atticus can kick it. There's no question. I think he's definitely got a leg to make it in the NFL for sure.
All right, well, don't tell anybody. I got some steam for you. But the Packers, Bears, and Falcons are the ones that are most interested in Atticus Sappington. Now, to the current nature of things, I like to listen to my cohorts, my counterparts, my friends in the NFL and playoff games. So I think I texted you this. I was listening to you and Mark and Andre Ware call the game at Foxborough. Man, you guys just were so emotionally into that game. Holy cow. It didn't go the right way in the divisional round. What was it like calling that game, being there at Foxborough? And really, when we chatted into the 2024 draft, I mean, you nailed Drake May as the best quarterback in a super quarterback deep draft, as well as anybody I heard. And really over the years, anybody stamping somebody perfectly at that time, and then it came to fruition. What was it like watching the guy you loved into a draft go up and down the field on your team a little bit?
I hated it. It was, it's funny. I do the same thing, Paul. I love to listen to you guys. And you've had so many calls. I think it was what year did Jettas make that catch at Buffalo? You guys said it when it was at
2022.
Yeah. And we were struggling through that season. And so it was trying to live vicariously through you and your voice and the wins that Minnesota had and that win at Buffalo. And I just remember the broadcasts I like to listen to are those in which the people that are calling that game are living and dying with single thing that's happening with that particular game. It isn't just, let's just get through it. Mutual admiration society. I love people that the emotion shows and it matters. And for us, it mattered. And I think it was frustrating about that game. They came out and they popped this early. Pop Douglas caught a little slant route, took it to the house. But we've had that happen a number of times where we get down 7-0. Happened against the Bills. We got down 7-0. We march back, we take a lead, and then with our defense, we just kind of kept them away at bay the rest of the game. Well, we got up 10-7 that game. I think people forget. We got to stop a 3-and-out. They punt us. We got the ball at the 25-yard line. If we just kind of keep plugging away, we're good. Yeah. We're up 10-7. This is the style of game we've been playing. And immediately, CJ threw the pick six to Marcus Jones, which hurts even more because Andre Ware is a huge Houston Cougar. Marcus Jones being a Cougar, it just stung. And I just remember thinking, what are we doing? We have the best defense in the league. Our special teams are tremendous. It's a snowy, kind of gray, cloudy day, and we've got the lead. Let's just not beat ourselves. And now we're beating ourselves. And that was something that we hadn't done up to that point. We tried to do it against Pittsburgh, but the defense was, good enough to overcome that. And then Drake, he wasn't tremendous that game against us, but he made the 3 right throws. And his receivers bailed him out. Kayshon Boutte's catch to put him up 28-16 is one of the greatest catches I've seen in playoff history. I mean, just one hand. I was right in line with him, Paul, and I could see him stick out his hand. And I'm always in Mark's ear, and I just said, I can't say what I said. I was like, he bleeping caught it. Just incredulous. And so it was kind of that nature. It was like we're having this beautiful snowfall, this romantic setting, and the same team is beating us again. And it was all that frustration kind of coming through. But mainly it was, why did we give the game away? And that's what stunk so much.
Yeah, and probably got Patriot Pat, the mascot, trash talking you, and then you got the guys with the muskets. I mean, Gillette's phenomenal. I love games there. John Harris at J Harris Football on X. His website, footballtakeover.com, as comprehensive with the NFL draft as you'll find. So give it a look. If it's for you, then subscribe. FICA, Fairness and C.J. Stroud Act. C.J. Stroud, the guy I love. C.J. Stroud, the Christian with whom I pray when we play the Texans. Authentic, I love him. C.J. Stroud, the player, there's been a regression since that first year. What's going on with C.J.?
Oh, man, it's the $64 million question in Houston, Paul. Like, what's happened? And I think a lot of people have theories, oh, it's just this or it's just that. I think there have been a number of things. I think, the biggest part of this, I would say, is just the evolution of a young quarterback in this league, that you have to learn how to deal with adversity. I think a lot of great quarterbacks come out of college and they're behind these, 5-star offensive linemen. They get all day to throw, and they're wide receivers. Like, look at the ones that CJ had. They're tremendous. They're open by 5 feet. But it's not like that in the NFL. That. And I think we're finding that quarterback development is just taking longer. You guys saw it with Sam Darnold. It took a number of teams, a number of different voices before it really kind of clicked. And my hope is that CJ is so uber talented, but he's learning the game. He learned, I think, this year how to be a better leader for the team. He did things statistically better than he had done the year before. The concussion against Denver, I think, impacted him a lot. He, at that point, stopped really running when he could make a play on third down running. But he made better decisions with the ball. That's what was so mystifying for a lot of people in Houston. It was so mystifying because he had been so much better. Hey, the tight end screen's not there. Just dirt it. Don't throw it to him and have a 7-yard line. Just dirt it. This play isn't there. Just throw it away. You're about to get sacked. Just get rid of the football. And he was doing a much better job with that. And then we got to the playoffs, and he just did some things that, when a dog sees something interesting, they do that kind of head turn. We were all kind of doing that collectively, like, what is that? Yeah. I thought after the Pittsburgh game he would bounce back against New England, and it just didn't. Now, I will give him credit because in the second half, he really kind of got us back in it. We kind of inched into it with some of the throws he made, but it wasn't him. But there's been progress. It just hasn't been what everybody expected after his rookie year. But I think, and you mentioned it, his relationship to the Lord, he speaks. When he speaks, it is so glowing of the organization, of his teammates. He's such a good Christian. I think a lot of people really love that in Houston about him. Going to give him not a second chance, but give him a chance to work through it. How many teams?
They give him grace.
They give him grace, and I think they should. He is that kind of individual. But I think the biggest thing was he became a better leader this year. And I think that's going to help him in the long run. But I think this is going to obviously be a big year, whether he ends up being the full-time quarterback. But Nick Caserio said, look, we're not trading a guy. He's our guy. We're living and dying with C.J. Stroud, and I think that's a good thing.
All right, last one for John Harris. Man, thank you very much for the time. Now, the Vikings are over the cap, but they can fix that. It's not like ridiculously over the cap. And, so therefore, in looking at the makeup of this team that I think I know pretty well, and I don't believe, personally speaking, I think Jalen Naylor is going to be on another team. I think he's, because of the lack of depth in the free agency market for receivers, I think Jalen's going to be coveted. It'd be great to have him back, but I just don't see it happening. So with that said, I think the Vikings will look for a veteran receiver. I adore Jawan Jennings, and here's why. I mean, we're not talking 7, 164 and 3. We already got that with Justin, but Jawan is so tough, and he's such a good run blocking receiver. He's a born leader, galvanizes everybody on that team. He can throw a little bit, we know that, but Jawan Jennings just as an overall receiver. What do you think?
It's funny you say this because people ask me this as it pertains to the draft all the time. Hey, you like this guy? I'm like, what? In round 1? No. Round 5? Yeah. Jawan Jennings doesn't have to, you said it, he doesn't have to be the number 1. He doesn't have to be the number 2.
Thank you.
He's as good a number 3 as you could possibly have. Now, I don't know what the money would be. I don't know that. But what I've seen for years throughout the league, hey, number 1 and 2 are really good. And, in Cincinnati, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, tremendous. Andre Yoshivas has stepped up and made huge plays for that team. And really a guy that Joe Burrow has found confidence in, that when you start to roll coverage or double Jamar and you take away T with your best corner, all of a sudden Yoshivas is facing a nickel or sometimes even a linebacker. That's what Jennings can do. He's made big catches. He's tough. He's feisty. He's the kind of guy that offensively can take some heat away from some of the other guys. And I don't know for the Vikings if, Justin's a vocal leader or who's a vocal leader, but I know Jawan, he gets after it. He's feisty. And I think he can kind of be that guy that, hey, things are popping off, and he's the guy that steps to the forefront. The rest of the offensive guys follow along like, yeah, what he said. And I think that's the kind of thing that offenses, especially with a young quarterback, they can use. And he's honest almost to a fault. And I think that's going to be good for a young quarterback, and they can get a relationship. But I think he would be a perfect fit for you guys.
Call you close to the draft. Thank you.
You got it, brother.
John Harris, fantastic. FootballTakeover.com. Thank you very much, John. The set list today, what's on deck, 9 to noon, provided by TimberTech and TimberTech.com. That their first segment was our Steve's Appliances marathon segment for the day. Steve's Appliances in Mounds View has a 50th anniversary sale taking place right now. Covenant claps for Steve, for all involved, and everybody, Steve's and Sarah and Jordan and Brian have helped over the years. The exclusive deals provide up to 50% off on select appliances. But of course, fast delivery, free recycling, and guaranteed low prices. It is a 50th anniversary sale courtesy of Steve's Appliances and stevesappliances.com. Love you, and thank you for the marathon segments. Now, part of that TimberTech What's on Deck set list includes, once again, about 20 minutes from now, Russo radio on the Wild and the Avs. Wild catching the Avs on a back-to-back out of the Olympic break. That's pretty cool. And Heinze, John Hines, coach of the Minnesota Wild, about 10:05. Some more combine cleanup after that. But when we return, Eden Prairie, Minnesota native and New England Patriots wide receivers coach Todd Downing joins 9 to noon. It's 9:20. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. This is FM 100.3 KFAN.
Hey, the Fan welcomes some great shows to the Mystic Amphitheater, including John Mellencamp. He's going to be there July 14th. Chris Stapleton, July 29th and 30th. How about GNR, Guns N' Roses? They're going to be there August 8th. You can get the complete details on all the upcoming shows via the concert page. And that's KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Good morning. New England Patriots wide receivers coach Todd Downing is an Eden Prairie, Minnesota native who played for Mike Grant and the Eagles and for the University of Minnesota. He coaches Diggsy and Booty. He coaches Diggsy and Booty and just coached in Super Bowl 60. That's where we began the early morning chat with TD, Todd Downing. And it began with, so Todd, what was it like after 20 plus years of coaching and leading men, finally making it to a Super Bowl?
I tell you what, it was an honor and a blessing, something that I've worked a long time for, being in this profession as long as I have and been close a couple times, but never got to experience it. And it's just a really neat experience, being able to have my family and some friends out there, to go through that journey with me and see that game and that stage was pretty special.
Well, what is, we've been on fields in pregame, praying, talking, warming up for you guys and everything so many times. What's pregame like in the Super Bowl? Like, how hyped is that?
I like to do my laps and stay moving. And so I was doing my laps, and it seems like I saw every celebrity I grew up watching on TV or famous basketball player or something like that. But what was fun was being able to have my family down there, my wife and son, standing there, and every lap I'd get around the corner, I'd see my son and think, wow, this journey's been worth it,
So wide receivers coach New England Patriots, so you're going to get sideline credentials pregame pretty much any time you want, I would think. But the Super Bowl could be a different beast. So I mean, that's how it works in the Super Bowl. Like, it's like normal with passes and stuff like that. And they got areas roped off and you're doing your laps and you can like stop by and see Julian Jackson, then do another lap. That's unbelievable.
It's anything but normal. I was very lucky that I had somebody take care of me and somebody that has seen my family's journey and wanted them to be down there and be a part of it. So feel very fortunate for that person.
That's fantastic. Todd Downing, Minnesotan Todd Downing, wide receivers coach for the New England Patriots, 9 to noon. And Todd's journey started in Minnesota 25 plus years ago, but not as a coach. Tell us how that started.
Well, we always say it's funny that you and I sit here and talk in Indy, because the first football job I had was coming here and being a runner, trying to flag down all the informal interviews and the rat race that used to be the RCA Dome. But No, it started as an intern with Chad Oslin and Bob Hagan and those guys, Tom West, taking care of me and giving me odd jobs to do around the facility. And I just tried to approach any task they gave me with an effort and a desire to do things right and do things well and try to get more and more responsibility as it went on. And I owe a lot to those guys for giving me a foot in the door. And then I took off and ran with it and made Coach Tice, an impression, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're a wide receivers coach, and you've been an offensive coordinator and a quarterbacks coach and a tight ends coach. So I mean, it's all offense, but early in the run with the Vikings, the Mike Tice led Vikings, weren't you on the defensive side a little bit?
Helped out a little bit over there. When I went to St. Louis with Scott Linehan, I flipped over to defense for 3 years. And that's really where I sank my teeth into understanding coverages and pressures and things like that. But yeah, I think the versatility that I have now is a byproduct of a bunch of different people investing in me early in my career, so that I understood that teaching is teaching, and when you understand the subject material, you're able to teach different groups of guys. But at the core of it is relationships. Yeah. And if you invest in the relationships with your players and they know you're trying to help them, you can teach them anything.
Well, this is starting, and I've known you more than a quarter century, and this is really starting to make sense to me, because Todd is a super well-respected guy for his passing game concepts. Like, wherever you go, there's passing tied to you. Offensive coordinator, wide receivers, tight ends, passing game specialist, whatever. So that time in St. Louis with Linehan, and what do you got? Torrey Holt, maybe some Isaac Bruce in there, stuff like that. So you're able to recall what you were trying to stop and then use it the rest of your career to try to beat offensively. I mean, that was invaluable, right?
Yeah, I think when you understand what the opponent's trying to get accomplished or what they're trying to stop, you know how to better attack it. And in those years in St. Louis with Ron Milas and Jim Haslett and those guys that invested in me, teaching me coverages, Rick Venturi, those guys taught me the holes in the coverages or the challenge points in the coverages, but also they're teaching progressions, and maybe the corner's not going to get out of his back pedal until such and such depth, or this is a vulnerable spot once you get past the hook player in the zones inside. So it definitely helps to think of how you want to attack defenses.
Todd, do you think film watching is a gift? I mean, do you like there are so many coaches who break down film, and that's what all of them do. But when it comes to being good with the nuance of it, or putting the work in, and say looking at something over and over 10 times where people will stop at 3, is that part of the gift?
Yeah, I think there's a
finding tells from a defensive player.
I think there's a gift in not getting lost in the monotony, right? You get into week 14 and it's been, a short week, and you have to still do the job the right way. But that goes back to my intern roots that, I just want to do things well and thorough. And if you can keep that mindset and sustain that, that's called competitive stamina.
Todd Downing, Patriots wide receiver coach from Eden Prairie, Minnesota. Got a few more to close here for him from the Indianapolis Combine. Drake May, what do you like about him?
Just about everything. He's first of all, he's 23 years old. I mean, that's something that we got to keep in perspective. This is a really young guy that's had a lot of success, and he's growing each day. I love his demeanor because he's coachable. I watch him with Josh McDaniels and our quarterback coach Ashton Grant, and he wants to get better. He wants to be great. He puts the time in, but he's very approachable. He's not like some of these made for TV franchise quarterbacks that you feel like you can't have a conversation with. The guy pops in my office all the time, asking about my son's basketball, and I see him have relationships and conversations with the wideouts, and just a great teammate, and has a great future.
What was it like working with Aaron Rodgers a couple of years ago when you were with the Jets, and also knowing week after week, hey, Julie, hey, Jackson, Daddy's on HBO, Daddy's on Hard Knocks? I mean, that was weird.
A lot comes with coaching him, I'll say that. But Aaron's a dear friend. I consider him a brother. He's a great football mind, a guy that's ultra competitive. He wants to win at everything he does, whether it's throwing darts or winning Super Bowls. He's super competitive, and just a wealth of knowledge at the quarterback position. what I appreciated about him, we could go out to, training in the middle of training camp, go out to do a quarterback drill, and it'd be something that he hadn't done before. And he was so obsessed with doing it the right way. And that was really cool.
Todd coached Derek Carr when he was with the Oakland Raiders, and turns out Derek Carr might return for the right situation. From what you remember, what does Derek do well? Because I remember you would always say nice things about Derek to me, about the person he was, and his arm, I mean, back in the day was fantastic. What do you remember about coaching Derek?
Yeah, quick release, great processing skills. He can diagnose defense as well. He's really good in protections, getting pressures picked up and making sure that he's safe and taken care of in the pocket. But again, a guy that just invests in those around him. I think he's someone who elevates the game of those around him, by being consistent in the way he approaches every day.
2 to go. Stephon Diggs. How do you pull the very best out of Steph?
Man, he's an infectious personality who comes in the building with energy. And, my time with him in 2018 with the Vikings helped this year. I could kind of skip the stage where, you're ice breaking and we could just, talk real. And that's what I love about Diggsy is he wants the truth and he doesn't want it sugar coated. He doesn't want it massaged. He just wants you to shoot him straight. And if you shoot him straight and he doesn't agree, well, then you can have a conversation about it. But if you try to, kind of pull the wool over his eyes, that's not going to go very well. And so what I think he appreciated about me and what I appreciated about him is we could just speak the truth to one another.
And I greatly appreciate the friendship you and I have had for a quarter century or more. Let's end like this. Your wife, Julie, and son, Jackson, and all the relocating you've done. It at times it just can't be easy. How do you guys make that work?
Well, it starts with a foundation of faith. My family is rooted in believing we're exactly where God wants us to be and that there's an impact for us to make wherever we are. And, my wife has been very strong through some peaks and valleys of this profession and of our personal life. And she's just been incredible walking alongside of me as a partner. And, I think in any good marriage, there are times where the wife's going to do some caring and there's some times where the husband's going to do some caring. But I know that my family trusts that I'm following the Lord's will, and so they can follow me alongside of it. And my son's starting to grow in his faith, and that's something we're exploring together, and that will always be what drives our family.
That's so beautiful. Love you very much, and enjoy the combine, okay?
Love you, brother. Appreciate you having me on.
TD, Todd Downing, New England Patriots wide receivers coach. He handles Diggs and Booty, and he's salt of the earth. Thank you, TD. 9:36 in the neighborhood. The neighborhood is 9 to noon, FM 100.3, KFAN. And locally, we have an A topic tonight. It's the Minnesota Wild at the Colorado Avalanche on KFAN, and preeminent beat writer Russo Radio discusses it next.
United States with numbers. Watch across it comes. Jack Hughes wins it. The golden goal for the United States. For the first time since the 1980 miracle, the United States takes the gold.
Russo Radio.
Michael, stupendous work in Milan. Were you happy to get home?
Yeah. Although I was shockingly still energized by what I covered there. It was, two incredible hockey tournaments, both, and the irony that they were both almost identical games, right? I mean, the women's game, 2-1 overtime. Canada largely outplayed the United States for a large portion of that game, but it took a comeback to get it done. And in the other game, Canada largely outplayed the United States. They were the ones that had to do the rallying, and then the United States figured out a way to get it done in overtime. Two Michigan-born athletes, Megan Keller and two athletes from Michigan, and Jack Hughes and Megan Keller, and two awesome tournaments.
Now, Michael Russo, The Athletic, theathletic.com, at Russo Hockey via X, kind enough to join 9 to noon on a big day for the Minnesota Wild out of the Olympic break. The Wild gets the Avs and we get the Avs on a back-to-back with travel out of the break. Holy cow. Sneaky little advantage tonight for Minnesota, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Colorado Avalanche are a really good team. They pulled it within 7 now up on the Wild. The Wild have played some more games than them. But if the Wild want to win the conference and win the division, it's this game and the one on March 6th, which is the night right after the trade deadline expires, that you have to win those games. And this is a game tonight where they've got to take advantage because the Wild are in the front end of a back-to-back. So I do think that, look, before the break probably came at a really good time for the Colorado Avalanche. They weren't playing great hockey really from January 1 on. They were a 500 team. And it felt like the season was starting to catch up to them a little bit. And they were losing games, and not only losing games, but losing games big. Where the Wild, on the other hand, were figuring out ways to get points in almost every single game. So I'll be interested. These two teams didn't play for 2-3 weeks, and the Wild have to figure out a way to get their game back in order, and no better way to start that than playing the best team in the league.
Now, Michael.
Russo Radio.
You've covered a lot and seen more. With the gold medal winning performances in Milan, men and women, the energy in the arena, subsequently the reaction and celebrations after the games, I'm not going to ask you to rank like where it is with everything you've seen and or covered, but just an amazing experience, right?
Yeah, it was incredible. A little different than when I covered the gold medal game in Vancouver and Canada won, and I was leaving the arena dodging fires and things like that. So it was a little different. Obviously, just a raucous celebration afterwards. I just thought it was amazing. Just watching that performance and by the United States and the goaltending performance that Connor Hellebuyck had in that game, and then seeing Jack Hughes win it, it just was a brilliant ending to a great tournament. I think it vindicated Bill Guerin and the roster construction that he really was adamant was the correct way to go about things. And, the guys that he put on this team all performed impeccably. And it was really, really a fun finish to a great tournament.
I don't know how much closely you were paying attention to the games as teams did resume action yesterday, but whether, Colorado still wins, they hold McKinnon out. Tage Thompson gets a goal. There was that cool pregame presentation at the Devils Arena for Jack, and then he brings Tage out, etc. Did you see any rust, or have you encountered or read about or just encountered any kind of the jet lag from the rock star-like celebration that Team USA has enjoyed over the last 3-4 days, and then now jumping right back into this sprint?
Yeah, I think the goaltending, especially in the late games, wasn't very good. We saw a 6-4 game of Vegas and LA. We saw a 6-5 game where Anaheim beat Edmonton. I think, the Vegas game was shocking to me because they kept 5 guys out of their lineups, Eichel and Hannafin and Marner and those type of players. And yet they still figured out a way to win in Los Angeles, who might be in trouble right now, the way they're playing. So I didn't see a lot of rust. I thought Dallas looked terrific. Obviously Ottinger didn't play, but I think that, he's going to start to get in the action pretty well. Toronto didn't look very good. Look, there's no excuses. This is just the way that things are. Usually you get like 4 or 5 days off in a season or get the bye week. Here you get 3 weeks off, and I'll be really interested to see how the Wild play tonight. Obviously, as we've all seen on social media, Quinn Hughes, Brock Faber, and Matt Boldy have had a very busy 4 days since the winning gold in Milan on Sunday. I mean, it's Thursday now, right? They've been everywhere from Miami, partying at an ultra club, to Washington D.C. at the White House, and obviously the Capitol, and then they get picked up yesterday morning, fly back here to Minnesota, and immediately go to Denver. So I'm sure there's going to be fatigue with them, but obviously they want to play tonight, and the plan is for them to play tonight.
Is there any more confidence that you can put in the head of Matt Boldy than what he unleashed? I know it's been 4 days. It's been reported about, posted about on social media, talked about endlessly since it took place on Sunday morning here local time. But just think of just Boldy and the confidence that he's going to be able to build, whether it's from the Four Nations a year ago, the Olympics now, the season that he's having, and unleashing just an all-time moment in the Olympics on Sunday, that confidence that can be built from that.
Yeah, I think that he's a confident kid, and he went into the Olympics playing as good as any American player in the tournament. Led all American players in goals going into the tournament as well. So I think that he just is oozing with that type of confidence, and we saw it throughout the tournament. I thought that line with Austin Matthews and Jake Ensel got better and better as it went along. Obviously, he scored just a sensational goal there on the pass to essentially go coast to coast. Right, he splits two superstar defensemen in Devon Taves and Cale Makar, and scores just an awesome goal. And I think we as Minnesota Wild people that watch them on a regular basis, the fans, obviously everybody inside the organization, I think we all know how good Matt Boldy is and what type of star he is right now and what he's going to be. If you ask Bill Guerin, hand on Bible, he'd tell you that he's every bit as good as Kirill Kaprizov. But now I think the rest of the league knows that. I think the rest of hockey fans know just how good this kid is. And so he's going to come back feeling really very, very good about himself. He's had a sensational season. And he's coming off a great playoff last year. So I just think it's going to get better and better.
Russo Radio 9 to noon, 9:48. Good morning. John Hines joins 15 minutes from now from Colorado for the Wild and the Avs on KFAN this evening. Injuries. Crosby, Fiala. Now, Mikko Rantanen is going to miss some time for the Stars. Yep. So if you're an owner of those teams, I mean, you just kind of you just kind of have to bite the bullet on that, right?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that's just the way it works when you're playing a physical game like this. Everybody knew the risks going there. It's just a shame what happened to Kevin Fiala, especially. This is somebody that broke his femur before he got to Minnesota, in the playoffs there when he was hit on a check by Bortuzzo and broke his femur, wound up in a hospital and a huge recovery from that. Now he's got, I think, the tib fib and had surgery there, and it's going to miss the rest of the regular season. This comes right after the Kings trade for Artemi Panarin too. So they were going for it all, and now you lose maybe your best player. So that's a shame. Obviously, the sprained knee with Crosby, and then the Rantanen situation. I'm going to be really interested to see what Dallas does now going into the trade deadline. If they feel they've got to go out and get figure out a way to go get a player. So it really is a shame what's happened to Rantanen and all these guys. But that's just. That's unfortunately what happens in these type of tournaments. We saw it with Josh Morrissey last year in the Four Nations. We saw it with players like Shea Theodore, with Joel Eriksson Ek. Unfortunately, we've seen it before with guys like John Tavares, Dominic Hasek. This is just what owners have to deal with when the league is going there in the middle of their season.
You think Billy G is going to be making any trades before the deadline?
Yeah, I do. I think that he's going after centers, whether it's a Vincent Trocheck. I'm sure he'd love to get on Robert Thomas. I think the price is extraordinary for him. But I think Trocheck, it makes a lot of sense. I think Ryan O'Reilly is another center that I think that they have interest in. I think they've called on Charlie Coyle. Obviously you have different degrees of players there, players with term, players that are pending UFAs. So that all decides the price point. I think the biggest thing that Billy's going to have to decide here is, if say a Trocheck is going to cost you a lot of future assets, a Charlie Stramel, a Lambos, a first, whatever it is, that takes you out of other things now in the future because they're just running out of assets. They've traded a lot here in the last couple of years for Quinn Hughes and for David Juracek. And so he's just got to determine, what type of assets he's willing to give up for certain players and whether or not it's worth it. And if you go out and get a Trocheck now, does it take you out of potentially big game hunting in the future, whether that's this summer or even into next season? So it's a tough position that he's in because obviously when you trade for Quinn Hughes, you want to go out and make sure that you're in a position to go and win a Stanley Cup. You still got to get through Dallas in the first round, most likely. You still got to get through most likely Colorado in the second round. So nothing is given no matter what he does. So that's why, to me, he's just got to be careful here and really just make sure that whatever decision he makes is the right one.
I generally don't like throwing out just specific names because there are so many different factors involved, but like a Nazem Kadri, when we're talking about centers and such and we're thinking about big game hunting, the required assets, as you mentioned, you've already expended so much with Quinn Hughes, and now the idea of adding another absolute stone cold big timer appears to be difficult. But like a Nazem Kadri, like names like that, do we have to kind of keep an open mind in terms of the addition, considering what Bill has in the equity bank account to work with?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Trocheck, if they're to go after anybody, makes the most sense. Like, he's cheaper, he's better, he's a little younger. I mean, Kadri is a $7 million player with 3 years left on his deal. Obviously, Calgary can retain, but that is a lot of freight for a 35-year-old with term left. He's got 10 goals in 56 games. I am not a Kadri guy anymore. He's not the player that won a cup in Colorado. He's not the player that was as good as he was in Toronto. I think Trocheck makes a lot of sense. I think he adds a lot of needs that the Wild have. A right shot, a guy that wins a ton of draws, a guy that we just saw in the penalty kill at the Olympics is elite in that category. And a guy that we know that Billy Guerin respects. So I think he makes a lot of sense, but I think because he's probably the number one center on the board right now, if you're not including Robert Thomas, I think there's a lot of teams that are probably going after him, whether it's the Detroit Red Wings, whether it's, Carolina Hurricanes, the place that he's been before, obviously Minnesota. There was a lot of jokes over in Milan that he's going to be joining the Wild. I think that the Wild could be a front runner in this. The question is, how much can Chris Drury get, because there are so many teams that want him, and whether or not Billy Guerin's willing to meet that price. I'm sure they've had a ton of conversations because they were together on the same staff for USA Hockey in Milan, and we'll see what happens here in the next week. But the trade deadline's quickly coming, and Billy Guerin does have a history of trying to get a jump on the deadline and making moves in advance. And so let's put it this way, Joe Smith and myself have our cell phones at the ready.
Trocheck is 36. Does that matter?
Yeah. I don't think that it matters because he's still such a really, really good player. First of all, he's 32. Just so you know, there. Yeah. He's younger than Nazem Kadri. I think the 32 age is what really attracts the Wild to him, because he's got term on his deal, he's, his cap hits at 4.625. He's got 3 years left on his deal. He's got a history of scoring too. He hasn't had a great year in New York. There's no doubt about that, but this is a perennial 20 to 25 goal scorer. He flashes skill. He gets 40 to 50 points a year. And we know that from a face-off percentage standpoint, from a expected goals standpoint, to a penalty kill standpoint, he fits a lot of needs. And if you're a Wild fan, you're also well aware that this team just lacks right shots, and especially in your top six. And so I think that he would make a huge difference, and somebody that John Hines can use in different areas. Ryan O'Reilly is another name that I think that if he is willing to move, I think the Wild would be in on. He'd probably come cheaper in terms of assets given up. So we'll see where it goes. I think Trocheck is the guy that they're really going after right now, though.
Yeah, that's my bad. I mean, the 36 to 32 is big. So really the question was a non-player. Any thing you can share, or with your discernment or hints or background as to what the Wild would be giving up?
Because he's got term, I think it's going to cost significant assets, and that's where it scares me, because he is, to your point, he's still 32. He still makes a lot of money. For a team that's given up so many assets in the last couple of years, a first, second, third, and fourth for Juracek, Rossi, Ogren, a first, and Boyum in the Quinn deal. If all of a sudden you're giving up Charlie Stramel, which might be, if you're not including Volstead or Urhoff, your best prospect. If you're giving up another first-round pick, if you're giving up a first-round pick like Carson Lambos, that's a lot to give up, and it could take you out of other things. And this is where I just think that Bill Guerin's got to be careful. It's like there's no doubt that Trocheck could help and could fill a need, but if you give up significant assets for a player that a lot of teams are coveting, it could take you out of something this summer. And we all know the Wild still want to go big game hunting, but they don't have a ton of assets. And so I do think it would cost them a couple prospects and maybe even a first. And this is an organization that last year traded its first, this year traded its first, and to now give up a future first, you better start being right. And when at the end of the day, you still got to beat Dallas in the first round and Colorado in the second to get to where you want to go. That's a lot to give up. The teams that give up those type of assets are teams that are, usually cup contenders every single year, and they're in easier divisions and have an easier path, where the Wild still, they can make the best moves in the world, and they still got to get through Dallas. They still got to get through Colorado. So it's really a quandary because, three of the best teams in the league are in this central division, and the way that the NHL does their playoff format, you're going to have a couple of the great teams in the league be out by the end of round one and at the end of round two.
Yeah. Here's the mistake I made. Trocheck, I was thinking about the 2030 Olympics for a question. Trocheck will be 36 in 2030. All right.
Yeah.
And the question of former Gophers, now Jackson Lacombe was on the team this year, but like Logan Cooley and Matty Nyes in 2030, I mean, they have fair shots to be on the team, right?
Absolutely. And look, there's going to be a lot of guys. I mean, Cole Caulfield, Lane Hudson, Alex Vlasic, Will Smith. There's a lot of really good young American players coming up that weren't even on this Olympic team. And so guys are definitely going to age out. The Brock Nelsons, we saw Chris Kreider age out. We saw, obviously a JT Miller could age out. So I think the United States has a really good opportunity to have it chances to win many World Cups and many Olympics. I think this is just the beginning. And I'll be interested to see what happens on the next quad if Bill Guerin comes back to run the team. I don't see why they wouldn't want him back, because he proved, I think, for a lot of people that were ripping him to shreds, I think he made the right moves for this team. Obviously, Tage Thompson had a great tournament. Trocheck and Miller were part of an 18 for 18 penalty kill. So he made the right decisions, and they're the ones with the gold medal right now, and it's because of those decisions. But now it's, where do you go from here in the next World Cup and the next Olympics? Because there were a lot of really good players left off this team.
We are going to hear from the head coach next segment, but as this team returns, we mentioned fatigue. How about overall health, whether it's Brodin finding his way back into the mix? Like, as we make this final 24, 25 game sprint to the postseason, are we going to have all our guys at some point?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. They've been, for the most part, healthy here the last, month or two. And that's been a great thing. And so they are coming back, as far as we know, very, very healthy. Brodin's the one guy that's really out of the lineup right now. He's somebody that is at least on the ice skating, but he's got a set timeline from his surgery of 6 to 8 weeks. So that to me tells us that he's probably going to be out another 2 to 3 weeks. But it's a really good thing that he's on the ice now. And as we've seen, I mean, he is an incredibly important player for this team. And you put him in the lineup, and suddenly the Wild have as deep a blue line as there is in the National Hockey League. And what's been really good is guys like Kaprizov and Ek. And Kaprizov got a lot of rest here, obviously, the last 3 weeks. Ek came back healthy, which is always a scary thing with him. And as far as we know, guys like Boldy and Quinn Hughes and Brock Faber are healthy as well.
Lastly, 30 seconds, you get it all. Heinze next segment from Colorado. Who do you expect to play goalie for Minnesota tonight? And I noticed Buss is 2-7-1 versus Colorado all time.
Yeah, that's why I think that maybe they go with Wally. But we'll see. I mean, look, at some point you got to play your best against the Colorado Avalanche. But Wally's had some really good games against Colorado. They play the next night in Utah, where Phillip has won games as well. So we'll see. I mean, it's that was a really interesting thing about the Olympic tournament, is that Gus really didn't perform well. Essentially, lost his job. Wally didn't get a minute of playing time. So we'll see how they deal with the goaltending rotation as we get here down the stretch.
Thanks, brother. Great work as usual. Appreciate you.
Yep. See you guys. Take care.
Russo Radio, The Athletic, theathletic.com.
Let's play hockey!
Tonight at Ball Arena, Wild and Avalanche, and Wild head coach John Hines joins